Hi and welcome to Reddit Confessions. Grab a drink because this one still makes my hands shake. Not from rage, from realizing just how blind I let myself be. It happened on a Wednesday. I remember because I just picked up the dry cleaning and dropped my keys in the kitchen like always. Nothing in the world felt different until I heard her laugh. It wasn't the sound that caught me. It was the direction it came from. Our living room, speakerphone, and my name. She says the funniest stuff, a voice said. Then my wife answered, her voice smooth, playful, careless. Oh please, I only like Lowell after a few drinks. Sober? I can't even make eye contact. They both laughed. Hard. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared at the wall. That stupid wall I'd painted for her last summer, while she binge-watched renovation shows and told me I was a keeper. I remember thinking, maybe I misheard. Maybe she meant something else. But then she kept going. Sometimes I think I'm allergic to his energy. He walks in the room, and I swear it's like my mood just dies. More laughter. Not mine. The speaker clicked off a moment later. She didn't know I was home early. Didn't know I heard every syllable she chose like a scalpel. She came around the corner, barefoot, humming. She saw me. Her smile rose until it didn't. I didn't yell. I didn't even ask why. I just said, I'm done. Go pack. You're out. Her jaw slackened. She blinked twice. Once in disbelief, once in dread. Wait. What are you talking about? I turned around and walked to the fridge. Poured myself a glass of water with shaking hands. She followed, repeating my name like a kid being told summer was canceled. I didn't explain. I didn't cry. But she stopped smiling instantly. You'd think that'd be the worst of it, right? Wrong. That was just the part where the curtain dropped. The real show started the next morning, when I opened her second phone. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. She stayed curled up on the couch, watching me like a dog who knew it had chewed through something irreplaceable. Every time she tried to speak, I raised my hand. Not out of authority. I just couldn't handle more lies being assembled into words. I didn't want to hear the fake tears or worse, the performative guilt. Because once you hear your own wife say you're only tolerable when she's buzzed, there's no script that can unsay it. Around 3 a.m., she fell asleep in the guest room. I heard her door click shut, and I just stood there, frozen in our bedroom doorway, staring at the wall she'd once begged me to repaint because gray felt too depressing. Oh, the irony. I sat on the edge of the bed. The silence was heavier than grief. I looked around and noticed her work purse still sitting under my side of the nightstand. The one she always insisted was too close to the heater. I didn't even plan to check it. I was just going to move it off my side of the bed like always. But then it buzzed. 3:12 a.m. The screen lit up. It wasn't her regular phone. This one was older, slimmer, and had a wallpaper I didn't recognize. Some blurry photo of fireworks, probably cropped off Pinterest. And the message? You think he heard anything? Ugh. You were savage. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. There's a certain feeling that sets in when you realize the universe isn't just trying to hurt you. It's actively kicking you while you bleed. I tapped into the messages. I shouldn't have. I know that. But I'm not going to pretend I was noble. What I found wasn't just betrayal, it was entertainment. Hundreds of messages. Weeks, maybe months. And not just flirty nonsense, full-on mockery. My quirks, my voice, my clothes. Even the way I cooked scrambled eggs was apparently tragically beige. And the worst part? She called me lowball in every text. Lowball made another one of his sad little playlists. Lord, give me strength. He actually thinks I laugh at his dad jokes because they're funny. I should get an Oscar. Sometimes I wonder what it's like to be with someone who doesn't smell like printer ink. I put the phone down. I didn't throw it. I didn't crush it. I just placed it back in the bag like I was sealing up a corpse. By sunrise, I was still sitting on the bed, shoes on, jacket zipped up. I packed one duffel, only what I needed, left everything else. The books, the memorabilia, the anniversary scrapbook she hadn't touched in years. All of it stayed. As I walked out, she heard the door. She stumbled down the hallway in that oversized sweatshirt she always said made her feel safe. She looked like she wanted to say something. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I didn't stop walking. Not because I wanted to look dramatic, but because I knew if I turned around, I might pause. And I didn't deserve to pause. I deserved peace. I moved in with my cousin Devin. He's a mechanic, barely has Wi-Fi, eats more canned beans than I thought was legally acceptable, but he gave me a place to sit without judgment. And it should have ended there. But it didn't. Because 3 days later, I got a call from a blocked number. And the voice on the other end, it wasn't hers. It was his. 3 days. That's how long I lasted without speaking to her. 3 days of microwave meals, stiff towels, and pretending I could sleep on a futon without my back sounding like bubble wrap every morning. 3 days of silence until he broke it. I don't even know why I answered. Probably because blocked numbers scare me less than unknowns in my own marriage these days. But the second I heard the voice, smooth, casual, young, my fingers gripped the phone like it might dissolve. Hey, Lowell, right? He said my name, like we were friends, like this wasn't completely insane. I didn't respond. I didn't breathe. He kept going. Listen, man, I just wanted to say I didn't know she was married at first. Like, not until we were already talking. I figured, hey, it's her life, her rules. You know? Her life, her rules. I could feel my pulse in my gums. But anyway, now that it's all out there, she's pretty upset. You leaving kind of, messed her up. She didn't think you'd actually walk. Oh, I see. So that was the shock. Not the betrayal. Not the 2 phones or the secret messages. Not the endless behind-my-back jokes or that ridiculous nickname. No, it was the fact that I actually had the spine to leave. That I didn't just fold up like laundry and accept it. I finally spoke. Why are you calling me? There was a pause. Then the arrogance came out like it had just been warming up. Because I think you still care. You wouldn't have walked out with nothing if you didn't. I think you want to be heard, man. And she's not great at that. That's when it hit me. This wasn't an apology. This was recon. He was calling to see how broken I was. To check the damage. To gauge whether I was a threat or a punchline. And the worst part? He sounded like someone who'd already won. I hung up without another word. Sat on the floor of Devin's garage for nearly 2 hours, staring at the cracked cement. Devin walked in at some point, saw me, and handed me a warm beer and a half-eaten sandwich. Didn't ask anything. Just sat beside me and picked dirt out of his boot. And I think that was the first moment I realized how lonely I'd been even while married. Later that night, Candace texted me for the first time since I left. Just one sentence. I didn't think you'd make it so easy to leave. Easy? I laughed. I actually laughed. Not out of humor, but because it was either that or scream until the neighbors called someone. She thought leaving was easy? Does easy feel like cold showers and forgotten toothbrushes and pretending you don't flinch when someone brings up love? I didn't reply, but I did call a lawyer the next morning. And guess what? There was a surprise waiting for me there, too. Because it turns out, I wasn't the first man she'd done this to. Not even close. The lawyer's name was Meredith Alden. Sharp-eyed, zero nonsense, and she wore her reading glasses like a weapon. She didn't offer me sympathy. I didn't want any. What she offered was clarity, which honestly was way scarier. I gave her the rundown. Left out the humiliating details. I didn't want to hear myself say low ball out loud. She nodded a lot. Took notes. Asked me one question that hit harder than I expected. Is this her first marriage? I blinked. Yeah. I think so. She's never mentioned. Meredith looked up. You think so? There was a pause. My ears buzzed. She tapped a few keys on her laptop, then leaned back in her chair. Well, it wasn't. She turned the screen toward me, and there it was. A marriage certificate from 2010. Same full name. Same birthday. Same girl who said, marriage always scared me because it's forever. Married to a guy named Darren Ellison, some electrician from Pennsylvania. Divorced 14 months later. No kids. No mention. Not once. Not during our late-night talks. Not when we did our taxes. Not even when she made fun of my bad history with exes while sipping white wine and watching reality TV. I felt sick. What kind of person hides a whole marriage? I asked Meredith if that changed anything legally. She shook her head. Not unless there was fraud. But it does tell you something important. Patterns. And she was right. It made everything snap into place. The way Candace always made jokes about people who fall too fast. The way she panicked when I once found an old box labeled Denver Storage, and she yanked it out of my hands like it held a live bomb. The fact that she never, ever let me meet her extended family. I drove back to Devon's place with both windows down, even though it was 42 degrees outside. I needed the cold. I needed to feel like I wasn't sinking into my own sweat. When I got back, Devon was at the kitchen table building a carburetor. I don't even know why. He doesn't fix engines indoors. But he looked up, saw my face and said, "You either saw a ghost or a court file. Which one?" I told him. He nodded, said nothing. That night I went into my email drafts. I hadn't logged in since I moved out, but there it was, a half-written message from Candace. She'd never sent it. It started with, "You're not blameless," and ended with, "I didn't think you'd actually have the backbone to leave." That part was in all caps, but it was the middle that gutted me. I saw what happened to my mom. She stayed, and he still left her for someone younger. At least I got out before that happened to me. Got out? Like I was a trap she barely escaped? As if I was some kind of ticking bomb she had to dance around until she found something better. I stared at that sentence for so long I forgot what time it was. My reflection in the screen looked like someone I wouldn't have trusted either. But here's the kicker. That email? It was timestamped 2 weeks before the night of the party, before the drinks, before the joke, before the speakerphone. Which means she never planned to fix it. She was already halfway gone. And I was just the last fool standing at the edge of her runway, waving goodbye with blindfolds on. But I wasn't about to let it end there. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I reached out to her first husband. And what he told me, that's when I stopped feeling sorry for myself and started feeling scared. I didn't expect him to respond. I wasn't even sure the Facebook message would go through. His profile was half empty. No profile picture, no recent activity, just a banner image of a sunset that looked like it came from a desktop wallpaper pack. Still, I wrote him. I had nothing to lose. Just a simple message. "Hi, this is probably weird. My name is Lowell. I'm Candace's second husband. I think we need to talk." He replied in under 10 minutes. "You're the second?" That was all he said at first. But it felt loaded, like a fuse just got lit. I gave him my number. I didn't think he'd use it. But the next evening, as I was rinsing a mug at Devon's sink, my phone buzzed. Darren Ellison. He sounded exactly like I imagined. Tired. Older than his years. A guy who'd seen storms and never dried off. We skipped the pleasantries. He got straight to it. "You're probably wondering how it went for me." I stayed quiet. "She met me in a hardware store. Said I looked like someone who could fix broken things. Thought it was flirty. Thought she was just quirky." He chuckled, but it wasn't amusement. It was bitterness distilled into sound. We got married 6 months later. She told me she had a complicated past. Distant parents, no real siblings, a trail of exes who didn't get her. I thought I could be the exception. He paused. I could hear a car horn in the distance on his end. About a year in, things got weird. She'd go silent for days. One time I found her crying in the bathtub at 2 a.m., whispering to herself. When I asked what was wrong, she said, "You're going to ruin me like the others." He took a breath. I didn't know what she meant, but then I found out she'd taken out a credit card in my name, maxed it, signed up for therapy under her maiden name and never told me. She'd go to sessions and then come back, colder, distant, like she'd practiced how to cut me out emotionally. I sat down at the kitchen table, stunned. Every word was fitting together like a horrible jigsaw puzzle. Eventually, I found the messages. The secret phone. Her new friend who wasn't so new. And you know what she said when I confronted her? I didn't answer. She said, "You knew what I was when you married me." That line echoed in my brain like a bell ringing in a cave. I left. took the debt, took the hit. She vanished. Never saw her again. Until now, I didn't even know she remarried. But if you're calling me, he trailed off, then added, you're in for a ride, Lowell. She doesn't burn bridges. She just watches them collapse from the other side. We spoke for another 15 minutes. Mostly quiet, just processing. After we hung up, I sat there with my hands in my lap, staring at the floor, remembering every strange moment in my marriage I had brushed off. The missing mail, the late-night showers, the way she always said, you're too nice, like it was a complaint. Suddenly, it wasn't just about betrayal. It was about manipulation. I started going through my accounts, my credit, my shared logins. I discovered a few strange charges from a site I didn't recognize, Wesley Club Travel. Bookings, spa add-ons, couples packages, all dated 2 months before she made that joke at the party. That night, the one where she said she only liked me after a few drinks, she had already been planning a romantic trip with him. I felt something snap inside me. Not rage, not sadness, clarity. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was war by paper cuts. And then, just as I started to breathe, Candace texted me again. One sentence. I think we should talk. You deserve closure. Closure? Closure implies an ending. But I was starting to wonder if this woman ever ended anything, or if she just quietly moved on. While leaving behind wreckage no one noticed until it started to rot. She chose a small cafe downtown, the kind with too many plants and not enough space, where the music's soft and everything smells like citrus and wood polish. I hadn't been there since we first started dating. She knew that. Maybe that was the point. I arrived first, sat at a 2-seater table by the window, heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my throat. I stared at the door every time it opened. Every woman with brown hair made me flinch. But when Candace finally walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked put together. Not overdressed, not overly emotional, just sharp. Hair freshly styled, black coat, no makeup smudges, no swollen eyes. She looked like someone who'd just come from a meeting, not someone whose marriage had just imploded. And that, weirdly, hit me harder than anything else. She sat across from me and didn't say anything at first. Just looked at me. Then she smiled, softly, like we were old classmates catching up. I didn't think you'd agree to this, she said. I shrugged. You said I deserved closure. She sipped her coffee, as if that statement meant something neutral. Well, don't you? I studied her face. The same face I used to kiss on the forehead every morning. The same lips that once told me she felt safe with me. And now, those same lips were sipping a $5 latte like I was just another awkward loose end she needed to tie up. Was any of it real? I asked. She didn't answer right away. That silence should have told me everything. Then she said something I'll never forget. I loved the way you loved me. I just never figured out how to return it. I stared at her, waiting, hoping that wasn't it. That there'd be more. An explanation. A breakdown. A sliver of remorse. But no. She just stirred her coffee and added, I never planned to hurt you, Lowell. I just outgrew you. Outgrew me, like I was an old jacket. Something functional, familiar, and no longer flattering. I leaned forward. My voice was calm, but shaking. So the second phone? The vacations with him? The jokes? All just what? Part of your growth? She smiled. Actually smiled. I was coping. You weren't listening anymore. I felt something cold settle in my spine. This wasn't guilt. This wasn't even manipulation. This was her truth. She genuinely believed she had the moral high ground. That I had somehow failed her by not evolving fast enough into someone more exciting, more assertive, more distant maybe. She leaned back and folded her arms. Look, you're not a bad guy. But I'm not going to apologize for being honest about what I needed. You're the one who left. I blinked. After I heard you mock me to your friends. She waved that off like a gnat. That's not what it sounded like. And honestly, if you hadn't been eavesdropping, we might have had a shot at fixing things. That's when I realized why she wanted to meet in public. It wasn't for safety. It was for control. She wanted witnesses. She wanted to keep it clean, level, civil. Because in a quiet cafe with background music and curated lighting, there's no room for chaos. But inside me, everything was chaos. I stood up. "I know about your first marriage," I said. That was the first time her face cracked. Just a little. A flicker of something behind her eyes. Not fear, just calculation. "I know about Darren," I added. She didn't respond, just pursed her lips and looked away like a chess player who'd misjudged a move. I grabbed my coat and turned to leave. But before I walked out, I said one last thing. "You're not someone who outgrows people. You're someone who abandons them and calls it growth so you can sleep at night." She didn't follow me. She didn't text afterward. For the first time since I left the house, there was silence. But that peace didn't last. Because 2 days later, Devin handed me a padded envelope that had been left in his mailbox. No return address. Inside was a flash drive. And what was on it? It wasn't closure. It was something far, far worse. When I pulled the flash drive out of the envelope, I just stared at it for a while. It wasn't labeled. No note. No context. Just cold, matte plastic, small, silent, waiting. Devin joked, "Hope it's not a virus." But I wasn't laughing. Something about it felt too deliberate, too personal. I plugged it into his dusty old laptop in the garage. He watched over my shoulder as the screen blinked, then loaded one single folder, just in case. Inside were 6 video files. No dates, no thumbnails, just plain names, 1 MOV through 6 MOV. I hesitated. Devin didn't. He clicked on the first one. The screen went black for a second. Then the footage began. It was handheld, shaky, and Candace was in the frame, sitting cross-legged on the floor, talking to someone behind the camera. But it wasn't me. Her hair was shorter, her clothes more relaxed. She looked younger. This had to be at least a year old, maybe more. She was laughing the way she never laughed around me anymore. Real laughter. She said, "I swear, if he ever finds this, I'll have to fake a breakdown or something." My stomach dropped. The guy filming her, I recognized the voice. It was him, Travis. The same man who'd called me, casually pretending to be respectful. The same man she booked that romantic vacation with. In the video, Candace continued, speaking like I was a minor character in her drama. "He's not a bad guy, you know? Just beige. He doesn't challenge me. He folds like paper. I could come home with blood on my shirt and he'd apologize for making me upset." They both laughed. I felt Devin's hand on my shoulder. I hadn't realized I was gripping the armrest so hard my knuckles went white. We watched the second video. It was worse. Candace was standing in front of our kitchen counter, my kitchen, holding one of the mugs I bought her on our first trip together. The camera panned around the space, zoomed in on our fridge, our photos, our couch. Travis said, "This place screams divorce already." Candace replied, "He thinks we're saving for a house. I'm just saving time until I can leave without feeling guilty." I stopped the video there. The third? I didn't even open it. Couldn't. Not yet. Not until I could breathe. We sat in silence for a long time. Devin looked like he wanted to say something, but didn't. There was nothing to say. This wasn't cheating. It wasn't emotional drifting. It wasn't a secret phone or flirty messages. This was a game. And I had been the joke. The flash drive wasn't a warning. It was a trophy. Something she gave me, or maybe wanted me to find, so I'd know exactly how small I'd become in her eyes. It was the final nail, the full circle humiliation. And yet, some part of me was grateful, because it killed whatever was left. There was no more, maybe she meant something else. No more wondering if I'd overreacted or been too soft or failed to lead better. She had documented her cruelty, like it was a hobby, like it was art. That night I packed again. Not my things, hers. I drove back to the house. She wasn't there. I had one spare key she hadn't thought to change yet. I filled 2 boxes with everything she left behind. Her books, her hair products, her little memory box filled with old birthday cards and train tickets I thought meant something. I placed the flash drive on top. And I wrote a note. "You were right. I didn't challenge you. So here's your final challenge. Live with the truth. No goodbye. No signature. No forgiveness. Just silence. But even then, even after all of that, I still didn't know the full story. Because the final video on that drive, the one I hadn't watched, it didn't just feature her and Travis. There was a third voice, and I recognized it immediately. I waited 2 days before watching the last video. 2 long, slow, emotionally dry days. I had it copied onto my laptop, and every time I hovered over the file, my heart would start that same anxious drumbeat like it had back in that cafe. But eventually, I knew I had to press play. Not for revenge. Not for curiosity. For peace. The video opened with a blurry shot of a hotel room. Not our house. Some anonymous beige space with curtains drawn tight. Candace was sitting on the edge of the bed, legs crossed, holding a wine glass. Travis was standing beside her, smirking. And then, that voice. "This is getting boring," the man said. My chest tightened, because that voice didn't belong to a stranger. It was my brother, Wyatt. Of course it was him. The same brother who always joked that I lucked out marrying someone out of your league. The one who had an uncanny habit of showing up right after our worst arguments. The one who always defended her when I vented privately, told me I should lighten up and be more fun. He was the third voice, the third player, the third betrayal. He wasn't just aware. He was part of it. In the video, the 3 of them laughed like high schoolers. I heard my name more than once, always in a mocking tone. There was a moment where Candace said, "He still thinks I'm just texting you." And Wyatt replied, "Then I'm flattered. Tell him I said thanks for keeping the seat warm." I closed the video before it finished. That was the moment the pain turned to something else. Not hate, not even anger. Turned into release. Because what do you do with a story so absurd, so cruel, so ridiculous, that it stops feeling personal? You let it go. You step out of it. You stop being the character and start being the writer again. That night I blocked them all. Not out of bitterness. Out of self-respect. I sent one final message to Wyatt. You didn't just lose a brother. You lost the last person who trusted you without question. I hope it was worth it. I didn't expect a reply, and I never got one. That was 6 months ago. Now I live in a smaller city. I work remotely. I've picked up hobbies that have nothing to do with fixing other people's lives. Hiking, photography, stand-up comedy. I'm still terrible, but it's honest. I even adopted a dog. A grumpy little mutt named Casper, who hates everyone except me. I haven't dated. I'm not rushing that part. But for the first time in years, when I walk into my home, the air doesn't feel tense. I don't second-guess every silence. I don't have to perform. I just exist. And that, honestly, feels like winning. So yeah. She said she only liked me after a few drinks. But I've learned to like myself sober. Completely. Flaws and all. That's something they'll never understand. Thanks for watching this story here on Reddit Confessions. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment below and tell us, what's the most shocking or unexpected betrayal you've ever seen or heard about? Was there a moment in this story that hit you personally? We read every comment, and we know so many of you have lived through things just as wild, painful, and even healing. If you found this story powerful, share it, subscribe, and check out more real stories right here on Reddit Confessions. Until next time, heal smart, walk away when it's time, and remember, closure doesn't come from them. Comes from you.